What's up, everyone? Steve and Jim back with the Ziggy Brothers, and look at this thing. What does this look like? Huh. Kind of looks like a walker mower to me, right?
Yeah.
This is called an Exmark Explorer. These were made, I believe it was the late 90s and the early 2000s. And we're gonna ask for everyone's advice like we always do for different topics and stuff, but throw it out in the comments and correct us if we're wrong. Was Exmark flagged by Walker for trying to copy the design back then? They did something, I'm not sure. That's what I heard, I don't know. That's why these things fizzled out, and also have heard that these things aren't the best. I can go over the pros and cons of what I see right from the get-go, but of course Exmark came out with the Navigator, which is the same thing as the Toro Direct Collect, and we've had those specific machines to replace the walkers, and we went right back to walker because we just didn't like them. But this thing is about 20 years old. So this thing has 828 original hours on it, and the hour meter works. And for being 20 something years old, it's really not in bad shape at all. I mean, it could use a set of tires. The seat's a little bit cracked, like dry cracks. I think it's a 20 horsepower Kohler Command, right?
Yeah.
That's what they had in the walker mowers also back then, and they also had the 25 horsepower and I think electronic fuel injection, also the diesel. A little bit different of a design. This has like a seat belt that was broken that goes from here to here to hold it up. Of course it broke, but Walker has those gas shocks, like the pistons. This flips up another thing. So on the Walker, you flip the hopper up and you've got right access to the engine. I guess they put this to cover the engine, which is not a bad idea, to keep more debris off of it from the blower fan, but then also probably overheating, right?
I think so.
It's covering up the airflow. I mean, it's open on that side completely, but in terms of air cooled, it needs both cylinder heads to cool. So this one probably, I mean, it's open in the front, so it's got a big fan back there. See it?
Yeah.
Driven off of the PTO, that probably makes enough air wind to cool it.
What I see right off the bat too is the motor's facing a completely different way.
Yep. Motor's usually facing this way.
On a walker.
Yep. And oh, it's got a solenoid, the starter solenoid, right?
Yeah.
The fuel tank's a little bit funky. We had to replace the rubber grommet on the bottom of the fuel tank, which is common on the older walker mowers also. That was no big deal. We replaced the fuel lines and the fuel filter. We put a new aftermarket carburetor on it because this thing has been sitting for a couple years. But underneath here, I mean, the engine started right up. As soon as we put new gas, new fuel lines, and a new carburetor, it started right up. Doesn't burn any oil, and it runs good. It's just a different design than the Walker, but has some similarities. It's got the pulleys that run to the blower fan and then also to the hydros, I'm assuming. Yeah. This big one, if I can hold this up at the same time, this pulley runs up and runs the hydro motors, which runs lines down to gear motors. So let me put this down.
Yeah.
So that's where they have Walker different. Walker's a hydro built into the gear motor, the wheel motor. These is two separate, which I kind of prefer two separate ones, honestly. Like the Hurricane blower had one giant transaxle, and the Windstorm has hydro motors driven down with hydraulic hoses down to the wheel motor. So if anything goes wrong, you can split and just replace one or the other, or one or the other wheel motors. You're not replacing the whole thing. But same with the Walker. It's separate, but it's bolted together. But the Walkers don't fail us, so we're not preaching this machine by any means. Another cool thing that I guess is a little bit different is the chute doesn't go with the seat. It doesn't run through the platform of the seat, so you don't have to, in order to flip the seat up, you don't have to dump the hopper like you do on the Walker. So the seat goes by itself and the hopper goes by itself, and the blower goes directly to the hopper. Not through the platform of the seat with a wear item like a chute. And once again, I'm not preaching this machine whatsoever. We run our walker mowers for a reason, just because they're reliable. And obviously they stopped making this thing for many reasons. Similarities. The drive shaft runs to a belt, I believe, underneath to the drive shaft, to a gearbox on the mower deck, and that's where the similarities stop. Other than the chute. The chute goes right into the blower fan.
And like it's a front collection deck.
Yeah.
Like the Walker, it does the same thing, but
in terms of the design of the mower deck, that's where it stops. It doesn't flip up like the Walkers do for easy service. And the deck is run by a belt. Runs down to the gearbox, and it's a whole belt driven, which that has its pros and its cons. The belt could break and you could be screwed. There's no shear pins on the blades underneath, and it's not like 3 separate gearboxes. It's 3 separate spindles. Does that flip up? I don't think.
Just a little bit.
So what's the point of it even flipping up if you can't open it all
the springs are in the way.
Yeah, but you have to take the springs off.
Yeah, but you can see the belt. You can actually see the belt right there.
But there's all sorts
the whole
of tension.
thing not flip up?
It doesn't.
Oh.
Does it?
I don't know. I mean, it's bolted with only one bolt
look,
back
this
there.
doesn't bolt. Look, that's it.
That's it. Yeah, it doesn't go.
I think it clips in somewhere.
It doesn't flip vertically. It doesn't seem like.
That's what the old walkers did too. The decks only went, and they had a pin that went to here. So let's run through the mower deck. I don't know if you can get the camera under.
Yeah.
This is weird. It's got 2 giant blades on the side, and it has like this little tiny blade in the front, because this is a 52-inch deck. Instead of making 2 big blades like the Walker does for 52s, it has 2 blades that are probably 48 inches, right, for cutting, and then a 4-inch blade, like a little, I don't know if you'd be able to, it's really weird.
Yeah, I'll try to.
Yeah, you can get that.
Yeah, so you got the 2 big blades, and then out front you got this little blade.
And this deck is very heavy.
Yeah.
Unlike the Walker mower where you can flip it up with a handle and secure it, this thing's heavy duty. But it's also not a good thing because it just adds weight to the machine. We kind of let's go over the hopper real quick. We showed the engine. Fuel tank is on the opposite side of a Walker mower. Most Walkers, I guess some of them are on this side, but like we said, it's got a bar and a strap to hold the tank in. Not the biggest end of the world to replace this, but it was probably a pain in the butt to replace like the blower fan back in the day. And then the hopper is completely different. It doesn't dump out when you flip the back door up like a Walker mower does. It has like this weird, this is supposed to lock, I think, but I just don't think it's, there's 2 separate bins. I mean, the discharge chute coming in is huge, which that could possibly be a positive.
Yeah.
So what's the point of it dumping if it has bins? You just take them out.
Yeah, I don't know.
I know some Walker models, it's an accessory. I don't know if they still do it, but you can, what I've seen in the past is you can buy 2 bins to put in the back to fill up to make it easier to say dump into a truck if you don't have the high dump, or if you want to dump it into a pail. Maybe that was back in the day. Everyone watching, please correct me if I'm wrong. But I've seen the accessories on YouTube where it just makes it easier to dump it farther into the woods or into the truck or something.
Yeah.
But this doesn't really seem like it has a point of the platform itself dumping.
Other than access for the engine, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you know what would be kind of cool? Take this stupid lid off, put sides on it, and put mulch in the back of it.
Yeah, and then make it a power dump.
Yeah,
but then you'd have to back up everywhere.
You have to back up and then you have to, it's not, that's not what we're going to do with it. It's kind of weird. I mean, the bins are in good shape. Like I said, it only has 826 hours. We ran this thing for a half hour to make sure that every 6 minutes the hour meter went up. So yeah, it's in. Single tail wheel, like some of the lighter duty Walker mowers have, like the 16 horsepower. I think it's the 18 now. Back in the day it was the 16. Not too familiar with the other models, like the non-collection Walker mowers, but once again, we are not preaching this thing at all. For good reason, they got rid of it. And they either got sued by Walker, I don't know what happened. The design of this is very poor. So if you come onto the seat, you almost hit your you-know-what every single time you get onto the seat. And when you're sitting in a Walker, if you're a little bit bigger person, the controls are kind of in the way, depending on how comfortable you are with it. But this got this big, bulky platform. This is all the electronics here. Like the Walker, it has its throttle and its choke on the left, but the electronics aren't on the left. Sometimes on the Walker, they're like right by your right knee or your left knee. This thing's out front. So I mean, to really get on this thing, you have to like put your leg over top of it, or I could see this not really working for any person, male or female of any size, because you have to get on the thing and not like hit this on your legs, which if you're using this thing, it probably hurts after a while. I remember the Toro Direct Collect that we had, which is the same as the Exmark Navigator. Remember how big these pins were on those? Yeah. I think they're the same thickness. The Walkers are very small, but the Walker's also way lighter and more agile and like quicker with its turns. It's got these funky springs running. I mean, you got to basically like rest your legs up against these. Think about bouncing up and down all day cutting. Your legs are going to get red. And have like a rash from these springs. But that's it with it. There's some similarities, but there's a lot of differences.
Yeah.
The drivability is completely different, and the parking brake is different, and the way the blades engage is very different. I mean, it starts right up just like the Kohler Command and the Walker does. There's no handle. This handle, you'd think, I'm sitting on it expecting to drive it with one hand and use this to control my speed, but this is actually for the PTO. This drives like a complete zero turn. You have to have a hand on each one of these. This is forward, and this is reverse, and left and right, or left and right. But this actually is your forward speed. There is nothing, this does not do anything for driving. So this is kind of, these are very stiff. It's not even from them sitting, it's just the springs to get them to come back to the neutral position. It's just how they made it. Parking brake on this side. And this is for the blades. Like the Walker, you pull it up to engage the belt coming off of the motor. This, you push it down to engage the belt underneath that runs this way. The Navigator and the Toro Direct Collect also run this way, where everything with the Walker runs this way except for the blower fan runs this way. I'd rather have everything running the way the engine goes. You're just less failure and less problems, in my opinion.
How basic of it, like they kept this machine almost too simple, I think. It's very basic, the design. I mean, look at the spring holder right here. I mean, from an engineering standpoint, if that snaps off, you're kind of screwed because you got to weld it back on. Like, why not make that a bolt-on part instead of welding it? You know what I mean? They kept everything so simple, but it's almost too simple.
That's also why these things aren't around. It was either of a lawsuit. I've already said this. I repeat myself a lot in these videos, but that's also probably this thing just didn't hold up very well. This thing's still hanging around 20 years later, but it's been sitting for a few years.
Let me show them something else too. Look at the ball link on the, move your left foot. This was off originally. There's a ball link holding this piece on. I mean, on every other, like Walker or the Navigator, this is a sturdy piece, right? Definitely on the Walker.
The little Walker, it's welded to the deck, so if it breaks, you're screwed. You got to weld it.
Yeah, I guess that's good to replace it, but that was popped right off. I mean, that's a weird.
It could be from when we loaded it up into the truck too.
Yeah.
I honestly would probably prefer this because this is like the shock in the Walker that holds up the seat and holds that up, but it has a clip on it. This
has a little bit of play. Yeah, but yeah, exactly.
If this broke, this is a bolt-on item. You could replace it. The Walker, if it breaks, we've been there, done that. You got to weld them back in place.
Exactly.
But look at how this is how big the Walker is in the back, but look at how beefy they are in the front. There's almost no need. Maybe there is a need because the mower deck is so damn heavy. The grass is kind of high here. The blades are good. We greased everything up on this thing. Like we said, it's got a new carburetor, fresh fuel. We fixed the fuel tank. We've got fuel lines. The one tire is a little bit of a slow leak, but everything's greased up. Everything on this is working as it sits here. 828 hours. And it's a lawnmower. That's what they made it for. So let's see what kind of stripes it does just on this little square. And then we'll dump the grass out into the woods. This is going to be for sale. Probably might be sold by the time this video is posted.
Yeah.
We're not taking a complete crap on this machine. We're just telling the differences between Walker and this. So whoever buys this, we're going to recommend not using this for like 5 days a week mowing. But this would probably work just fine for a homeowner looking to bag his leaves, or the young person or the new business owner that has 15 to 20 lawns a week and they need it. They need this for 10 lawns, maybe. I don't know. It's not going to go cut 100 lawns a week and have no problems. That's why they got rid of it. But enough talk. Let's just see what kind of cutting it does.
It sounds like a vacuum cleaner.
It sounds really weird with a belt out front running 3 separate spindles. But back up farther.
It actually didn't do half bad. It didn't do that
It
bad.
looks like a walker motor.
Yeah, it looks exactly like a walker.
It's just a funky design. Maybe I can take it back that somebody could buy this and use this a little bit more than 10 yards a week. Say the yard's only this big. We have a couple properties, a good amount of them that are like this. It did fine.
Yeah.
It's just weird getting on and off of it. It says no step here.
And the
Of course
control.
you want to step on here so you can get your leg up and over. It's just weird. I can see you sitting on them when you're trying to get on them and just banging your... I already hit my knees a couple times. Not from those, but on these nuts and bolts here. Want to check out the...
Yeah, let's see what it collected.
It cut pretty good. I cut it twice just to give it a little bit darker of a...
I'd be interested to see how it does with the leaves.
I mean...
It actually got some good grass in there.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah.
This is kind of cool to be able to just take it over here and dump it. I prefer to just dump it with one shot than having
me
to take
too.
2 separate trips. But,
Like, I guess if you were using it for leaves though and you were loading it into the truck, you got it backwards.
I do.
Yeah. If you were loading it into the truck though, I think you'd be all right with this.
I mean,
If you had a little pickup
I
truck.
wonder, maybe people probably already know the answer. We have some of our followers, I'm not going to name them, but I already know that they're very knowledgeable with walker mowers and machines that are back in the early 2000s. I mean, I was only a couple years old. I was 5 years old back probably when this thing came out, or maybe even 1 or 2. I don't even know. But did they get sued and that's why they didn't make this anymore? Or is it a piece of junk and it had too many design flaws that had too many warranty claims, and they just said, screw it, we're going to stop making it? Because right here it worked fine.
Yeah.
The controller in front of me would get really irritating probably after a couple runs, but other than that, probably easy to change the oil. It's easy to do hydros and all that sort of stuff on this. The deck is kind of funky because it doesn't flip up.
Yeah.
Replace a belt, replace some spindles and pulleys, but why did they completely stop making it? What was the worst, what was the main reason why they stopped?
Yeah. You know what I'll take on this that I'm noticing over the walker? That starter right there is a piece of cake.
Ow! Maybe that's why they got rid of it. It's like spring activated clothes. Ah, okay.
Look at the starter, it's right there.
It's right there. I mean,
I bet you could get burned on that though. Somebody definitely has gotten burned on that.
some of the pictures we've seen, they don't have a guard, a little screen.
Is there supposed to be a guard?
Does this say that it's kind of worn off? This says this engine meets 1995 to 1998 California emissions. So this
It's got to be old then.
This got to be.
There's another tag right there. Does that say the year?
No. So this got to be 25 years old, maybe. It only has 800 hours, and the hour meter is working. So it's not like it's just the hour meter doesn't work. It could have 8,000 hours. You can tell by the paint in the deck. It's pretty original. Look at this. Watch if I let go. Ready? That's a design flaw. There was a video. He's still on YouTube. He hasn't made a video in a few years, but Lionel's Office.
Yeah.
They're up in Connecticut, and I used to watch them growing up. They would get all free riding mowers, fix them up, sell them. They were called Tractorland. I think the other guy's name was Moldy Mac with his username on YouTube. They're still on here. Moldy Mac still throws videos out once in a blue about cars and stuff. But they had like 80 lawnmowers at once, riding mowers at Tractorland up in Connecticut. And there was a video where they found like a brand new tractor for free at the garbage, and they brought it home. They put a new belt on it or something. It said it wasn't driving, and he said, this is the worst design fault. He went to turn the blades off like this thing does, but up here, and it was like this. And he's like, this is probably gonna break someone's knee at some point. And he let it go, and it smashed his finger open. That's why they stopped making that specific tractor. I'm not sure which one it was, but that's a side note. Imagine if you're like this and you are shorter and your feet are in here. Say your knees only go to here. Like, that's a lot of force. I guess going forward that way doesn't matter, but that would hurt.
Yeah.
If you're sitting here, like, give your hand like bang. That's not cool. This isn't cool in my opinion with the side things. And the deck's a little bit funky with the 3 different mower blades, but I mean, if you can get away with all that and you're on a budget and you need one of these to cut grass and suck leaves up, I think it would probably work well. We have the other old walker in the garage that we're selling. We could have put them side by side, but people get the point because we post walker stuff all the time in our videos about the differences and similarities. But I don't know. That's it, right?
That's it.
Show your face. What do you think?
I think it's a weird mower. It looks weird, and I'm not a fan of it, but I bet you it would work. That's my opinion too. It would work, but I don't think it wouldn't work for what we would do.
Yeah.
Or like what a high scale commercial landscaper would do. I don't think it would work long term. I mean, maybe you get through a little bit, maybe a year or something, but I can't see it working.
Look, I noticed it has the JRCO attachments on the front, just missing the crossbar for attachments, but the bolts are almost new on that.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming a couple years ago someone was using this for their house or something. They had that to push leaves, or maybe had the
Dethatcher.
dethatcher attachment. I don't know. I'm gonna go park it in the garage. We're gonna go drive it into the driveway, take pictures of it, put it for sale, and just see what happens.
Yep.
I don't feel bad because we just used it. We tested it out. We kind of have a small relationship with the machine because it works. We went through it. We went through the entire fuel system. We checked all the fluids. We tested it not only on this piece of grass, but up top. We drove it around. We made sure everything is good. So we're not selling a piece of junk that's going to break in 2 seconds. But it is an older machine, so we'll see what happens. We're going to throw it on Facebook. All right, I'm going to take off and drive it around the house.
All right, bye now. Bye now. Thanks for watching. See you guys in the next one.